Hi, and welcome back to the Loud Reset podcast. My name is Adrienne, and I'm your host of my channel, which I'm going to brag about for a second. I'm up to 37 subscribers. So, I'm just on my way up. Anyways, totally kidding. Yeah, it's been about 2 months since I've sat down here, and life is very busy. And I'm going to start this podcast by saying I'm nervous for this podcast. Um, I'm by myself today, and I've done like I think one, two maybe by myself so far, but this is one that I'm going to really kind of deep dive into my mental health journey, my chronic illness journey, and ways I've kind of like worked to reset my nervous system and my brain and like stop living in an anxious and depressive episode every other day. So, yeah, this is going to get deep into that. And if you don't like that kind of stuff, that's fine. Feel free to skip over. But if I can just impact one person in one small way to better themselves or help themselves feel better about themselves, then I'm all for it. So, excuse me if I'm a little bit shaky in my voice because this is a very vulnerable session for me. And what I am finding the more I create content, with my YouTube channel and TikToks and all this other stuff in my business, it's like I'm working on myself and I'm putting myself out there to change what becomes of my world, essentially. So, I made a lot of notes for this podcast, and I will say that I have been mentally stuck on the contents of the things I'm going to talk about for months. Like this one has been in the works for a very long time. This podcast today is really kind of why I wanted to start this whole channel in the first place and talk about all these things in my life that really kind of tie together and shape completely who I am. So I did make a lot of notes. So I am going to reference my laptop. I've got my notes over here as well, just to kind of keep me on track and kind of have this conversation make sense, because I'm having it with myself. But again, I hope you enjoy. I hope you can take something away from this that maybe you can apply in your life, or just, I don't know, get to know me a little bit better and understand how who I am and what I do and kind of how my little brain works. So um, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to reflect on the last podcast I had, which I was just looking was 2 months ago. I had my mom on here with me, and I will treasure that podcast for the rest of my life. I'm so glad that it's out there and it's available for others to enjoy. I feel that way about all my podcasts, of course, especially when it's family members, but nothing replaces your mom. So I'm very happy about that. Couple podcasts I have coming up that we already kind of have in the works, brain wise, is the next one when Rich comes on here with me. We're going to talk about the vacations we've taken over the years because we do a lot of really fun travel. We really enjoy traveling, and we were actually just on an Alaskan cruise, and it was to die for. So I'm not going to talk too much about that right now because we're going to save that. But if you could never go to Alaska for any reason, please do so. Life changing. Like, I'm ready to move now, but that's not reality. Sorry, dry mouth. Also, these teas, the Real Tea Company, they're my newest obsession. I buy them on Amazon, but you can get them at Kroger. Okay. Also, not only the podcast that I'm going to do with Rich coming up next, but my sister Amanda is going to be on my next podcast. She's actually flying back to Ohio for some graduation ceremonies. Super proud of her with that. And she's going to be here in town. And for the longest time, I knew I wanted to have her on here because her story is absolutely amazing. And her and I have a very close bond. But I really wanted it to be in person. And she lives in Washington State on the other side of the country. So logistically, it was going to be difficult, or, I'm still learning this whole process technology wise. So I'm really glad she's going to be in town and we can sit down together and have that podcast together. So I'm really looking forward to that coming up in a couple weeks. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, life's been busy. Work's been busy. Sound bath has been keeping me extra busy, which I love. But I work a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and then I still do everything else outside of those working hours, my sound bath business, being a mom, being a wife, trying to, stay sane. It's been hot as dog shit in Ohio right now. We're under like a massive heat wave and I cannot stand it. I don't like to sweat. I don't like to be hot. It's really hot out right now. You might hear thunder. It is storming. I'm in my basement and we keep it like icebox cold down here. So I've got a blanket on, a hoodie, but if you step outside or even in the garage, it's like it's going to choke you and you're going to sweat instantly. So we're staying inside today. Okay, so another thing I just feel like I need to say is I'm really working on saying things even if my voice shakes. Like I said, I may kind of be all over on the place on this, and I just hope you'll bear with me because, again, this is a lot of stuff that's very intense for me to talk about. But it lets me realize how far I've come mentally and physically and how I present myself to the world and to myself. So just let me muddle through it and hopefully, again, you'll enjoy it. But again, I'm not for everyone and you won't hurt my feelings, but we'll just get into it. So, all right. So I have had anxiety for literally like as long as I can remember. When I look back to certain things in my childhood about how I would respond to things physically, mentally, emotionally, I didn't really know what it was. Of course, when you're a product of the 80s, you grow up in the 90s. That generation, they didn't really talk much about that. And of course, the generations before us sure as hell did not talk about that kind of stuff. So you didn't really know how to recognize it. I've talked a lot about my childhood, and I had a very carefree childhood, very nice upbringing. Again, we didn't have a lot of money by any means, but we weren't struggling poor, and we were clean and safe and happy. But it really started to kick in probably in junior high, where my nervous system just kind of like went bonkers. I would always get very, very anxious everywhere I went. In high school, it got really out of control too, and my anxiety manifests as very physical symptoms. Like, also, there's no such thing as TMI with me. So if you don't want to hear about like explosive diarrhea or throwing up or vomiting, like this ain't the place for you, because I just kind of put it all out there. We're all human. We all have those same experiences. So if you don't want to hear that stuff, again, keep moving. But what really, really kind of catapulted my anxiety and kind of like a change in my life was when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So to kind of talk a little bit about that, it was like January of 2009. Layla was born in December of 2008. So she's a brand new baby. And I'll say this, I have no proof of this, but in my head, I'm kind of like, this maybe triggered an early onset of this autoimmune disease. So after Layla was born, I had an IUD put in, Mirena, which that process is absolutely insane. And the fact that they don't like medicate the women or give us some sort of like nerve block or anesthesia for that process is mind blowing, but that's a whole nother thing. So anyways, I had my IUD put in because we were like, we don't want any more kids, at least not right now. We want to make sure we're not getting pregnant again. So shortly after, like I'm talking very early 2009, I had symptoms come on like a rush of blood to the head. So it started out where every major joint in my body, so like ankles, knees, hips, fingers, wrists, elbows, literally felt like they were going to shatter. Like I would wake up in the morning and getting out of bed to set my feet like on the ground literally felt like my bones were going to collapse underneath my skin and I was going to fall apart. It also felt like my skin was constantly on fire from the inside, like 24/7. Pain, unreal, unreal pain. And mind you, I'm a very healthy, okay, at this point, I'm 24 years old. I'm very fit. I'm very active. I am a retail manager at Best Buy, working 50 hours a week, on my feet, go, go, go. We're a very active family, yada, yada, yada. All those things. So when you look like that and you act the way I do and you go into a doctor's office and you're like, hey, I feel like I'm dying. Like, what is going on with me? They literally think you're crazy. and I'm young, and I'm there advocating for myself because that's what you have to do. So it took way too many doctors, way too many tests, way too many searching in the wrong direction to actually figure out what was going on with me, because it's one of those like invisible immune diseases. And my experience with rheumatoid arthritis was my grandma Pat. So my mom's mom. She died in her 60s, but she had very severe rheumatoid arthritis. She was wheelchair bound, and I should know the term for the hands, but her hands were completely gnarled, and like her joints, she could barely use her hands. She died when I was younger. I want to say, below 9. I can't remember the year. So my knowledge and my experience of people with rheumatoid was my grandma. So when they finally did the right blood work, after, I'm not kidding you, after doctor referral, it probably took them a year and a half to diagnose me. And when you're going through something like that, where you are constantly told nothing's wrong with you, you're constantly told literally that you're crazy. I'm going to try really hard not to get emotional with this one, but you really start to question yourself. You start to think that you are losing your mind, because when the pain is invisible, and of course my family believes me, but they can't fix me. They can't give me drugs to, help me. So it was a very long time. And I really think that's when my anxiety started to go like running in control of my life, where I couldn't do anything because I was in so much pain. And then the depression starts kicking in with those things too, where you're like, well, fuck, I'm 24 years old and I feel this way. Like, what does the next 3, 5, 10 years look like for me? It's a very, very daunting, very dark place to be in. And I was in a very dark place for a very long time. My job was very toxic. Retail in that time of year was like the wild, wild west. Anyone that worked it back then, it was crazy. So it was not a good time in my life for me, having this disease and not really knowing what to do with it or what it was. But then once they actually figured it out, they did a right, blood test essentially, and it was like off the charts. It was like, oh, this is very clearly rheumatoid arthritis. Why didn't we check this a while ago? But the healthcare system is trash, and we all know that. So when we finally figured it out that it was rheumatoid, of course, I got very depressed for a very long time, because one, I had a brand new baby. So postpartum depression is real. And then you're diagnosed with this disease that you don't know what that's going to look like. And your only frame of reference is your grandma in a wheelchair that can't use her hands. So, your brain kind of goes into worst case scenario. And, mine did that for a very long time. And it just continued to grow and grow and grow as far as like my anxiety and depression was concerned. So the thing with autoimmune diseases is what a lot of people don't understand. And when a lot of people talk to me about rheumatoid or arthritis, I know they're coming from a good place. So I just kind of take it with a grain of salt. But rheumatoid arthritis and like general arthritis and osteoarthritis are not the same thing. They're not even closely related. Yeah, sure, they have some overlapping principles, but osteoarthritis is more of like, you get it when you're older from constant movement, degeneration of the joints over time, etc. Well, rheumatoid arthritis is an actual autoimmune disease. So it's chronic. There's no cure, and it comes with a lot of bullshit. So first things first is my immune system is confused. What good joints I have in my system and good, fibers in between my bones and all this shit. I'm not a medical person. It gets confused and thinks those are bad, essentially. So my immune system is attacking itself. So it's breaking down all of the fibers in between my joints, which causes that. This is my favorite way to describe it. Feels like a lot of my joints are just like rubbing bone on bone all the time. Fingers, knuckles, elbows, hips, especially knees, any major joint. That's what it feels like for me, literally 24/7, even after being on medication for however long I have. That's another thing too, is once you get a diagnosis, they give you medication, and the medication is most times really fucking awful. I was on a number of different things to try to get the symptoms under the control. So not only are your joints inflamed because there's no cartilage in between them, it's literally like bone on bone rubbing together. That's painful. That causes inflammation. So red swelling knuckles, loss of dexterity. So like you being able to hold things, grip things. Like I'm the clumsiest person I know. It's because like I will think I have a hold of something and it's just not there. And I know that's my rheumatoid getting worse over years. So the joint pain, the chronic pain is awful. So when you are in pain 24/7, it does something to your head. It makes it hard to want to get up some days and know that, okay, and back then I had to get up and go work retail on a concrete floor, working 50 plus hours a week, dealing with all the dumb bullshit that comes with retail management. So that's really hard. And then being a new mom and being a wife and the responsibilities of life. So it was very hard for me to feel good about myself, feel good about anything around me. And I look back and I was like, I was such a toxic person. What I consumed, what I did, what I said. I didn't like that version of me. But that's who she was at the time, and that it is what it is. So when you finally get on some medication, the medication takes a while to actually work. So you're like, well, I got to stick this out for however many weeks and see if it does anything. And then if it doesn't, you got to go back and you got to start the process over and find a new drug and yada, yada, yada. It's all very stupid and stressful. So I was on something called methotrexate for a very long time. And I also can't take pills for just about like anything outside of like a headache. Like actual medication in the pill form is very hard for me because I have a very sensitive GI system. And I don't know if it's part of the rheumatoid, but I get nauseous very easily if something doesn't sit well with my stomach. So, like people that can pop a couple pills and it be the same thing, I can't do that. So, I had to take methotrexate in injection form, and it's a gnarly drug. It comes in a little vial and it's like bright fucking yellow. And you're like, could this be any more synthetic and just disgusting? But it's been around for a very long time, and it's, I don't want to say effective, but it's tried and true, is I guess is what the physicians will tell you. When in reality, they're all probably paid by big pharma to sell this drug and do whatever it needs to do. I hated being on it. I felt like absolute dog shit every time I had to have the injection, which was once a week. And it actually was the kind where it was a little vial and had to have a syringe, and I couldn't self-inject myself. I just, couldn't get over that mental mind fuck with that. So Rich was a trooper and had to give me my injections every single week. And I would feel so shitty for the next almost full week. I'm talking nausea, just overall blah. Like, why am I taking this? I'd almost rather deal with everything else because it's not taking away my arthritis. It's not curing it. It's bringing the symptoms down a little bit. Like, why the fuck am I doing this to just feel like shit over and over again? So I had to start the process of like researching new medication and then trying to find a physician that would be on board with that, because probably for many reasons, probably the kickbacks they were getting, and they feel like they know what's best. But this whole journey has really taught me how to advocate for myself in the healthcare space, because you have to. You can bring your husband in there, your friends, your family, all that. But at the end of the day, you have to have that autonomy to say, I want this, or no, I don't want this. So that was a very hard time for me, dealing with figuring that out. Another thing that is really awful with rheumatoid arthritis is the fatigue. So I can deal with the pain because I've dealt with it for so long, but I operate in a state of constant pain. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic, but there are days where literally everything aches so badly that it wears you down so hard, or the pain will wake you up in the middle of the night, just throbbing, just aching. And you lay there. Like, I'm 40 now. I was diagnosed when I was 24. So I've got some time under my belt with this disease. And I know its quirks, I think. But there was a long stretch in my life, very most recently back like during COVID time, that anytime I would get sick or start to feel something new, some new ache, some new pain, whatever that may be, it really fucks with your head because you're like, okay, well, maybe this is just a new rheumatoid symptom. And I'm, again, that thought of I'm going crazy a little bit, or is there something else wrong? So it's that hypochondriac feeling that you kind of like self-diagnose is like, okay, am I fucking crazy? Like, what is going on with me? But you have no other way to rationalize in your brain because you feel so awful all the time. So that was a very big aid in my depression and the fear of something always being wrong or there being more. So, medical reassurance was always a big deal for me, having my blood work checked frequently, which is very much part of the process when you have an autoimmune disease like rheumatoid, because the drugs that they put you on are very harsh. And what they're designed to do is slow down the progression of the disease. So again, it's not about curing it, because we all know that doesn't exist right now, but it's about making it a little bit easier to function. The one of the biggest downfalls of the drug is there's no like switch or pill for the fatigue, outside of like speed or cocaine or something. You're just tired. And it's not like, oh, I'm sleepy or I didn't sleep well last night. It's if I don't fucking lay down right now, my body's going to shut down. The brain fog that comes with it is out of this world. And that's the part for me that's the hardest to like adjust to, because life goes on and the day-to-day goes on and work is work and your kids are your kids and life demands what it does of you. And sometimes you can't just take a nap. But sometimes it's required, and it's required to even just get through the next 5 minutes. So I joke a lot, I'm a very sleepy girl, and, I sleep really great at night, thankfully. And that was another thing that didn't happen for a very long time. But if you can't find me or you can't get a hold of me, 9,000%, I'm taking a nap. I'm sleeping. So the rheumatoid journey has been intense, to say the least. The last, oh shit. Okay, so Layla's going to be 17 in December. So basically, as long as my daughter's been alive, I feel like I've been, battling this. I also want to tie back into the IUD. I forgot to talk about that. So I had that IUD put in for our form of birth control. And I am fully convinced that IUD caused the onset of my symptoms. Because if my memory serves me correct, my grandma Pat, who had the rheumatoid, my mom's mom, I believe hers came on pretty early in life too, not like juvenile or anything like that. But when she had my uncle, the birth was a little traumatic, and I believe she had to have a drug transfusion or a blood transfusion. And I think I remember talking to my mom about that we maybe kind of thought that's what triggered hers as well too. But again, this was, decades ago. So obviously treatment was much different, and how the drug is explored was a lot different as well. So that was really only my point of reference, was my grandma. So in my head, I believe it was the IUD that kind of triggered it. I've read different things on different sides, that one is like, there's no way it could have, and others are like, yeah, there's a possibility there. So that'll always kind of be in the back of my head, is had I not gotten that IUD, would I have gotten it as early in life as I did? But again, that's can't change the past. So we're just going to move on from that thought process, because I've gone down that rabbit hole way too many times, and I'm not going to do that anymore. So, what really made my anxiety get like out of control, and I'm talking the worst it's ever been, was when COVID hit. It was probably the darkest I had ever gone mentally and physically. And it was to the point where like you don't really feel like there's a way out. And when my routine got flipped on its head, I'm very much a structured type of girl. I am, very type A, and I like things done a certain way. I like a routine. I like structure. So when the whole world was, doing its thing during COVID. I didn't process that very well, having my routine kind of like flip and shuffle. And the anxiety and the fear and all of the crap that was going on just kind of made me implode, like physically implode. I was at a very, very toxic job that, I had set in my head several times as I have to get out of this place, but I gave it a timeline. If it doesn't get better by this day, I'm out the door. And it didn't get better. It got worse, and my anxiety suffered greatly during that. And things really came to a head when my depression started rearing its head. And there was a lot of things going on with me that really kind of caused all of those things to spiral. I was feeling very sick all the time, throwing up all the time, shitting my pants all the time. I was scared to leave the house because I always felt so shitty all the time. Also, when I say I'm shitting my pants all the time, I've never actually like full on shit my pants. So that's speaking figuratively. Just feeling like absolute dog shit all the time. Scared to leave the house because you feel so shitty. Again, that the skin being on fire from the inside, that's very real and has happened to me so many times. And it got so out of control that I was spiraling into like a really dark place. And I had been depressed before, like in 2017. We were on a cruise actually with some friends, the whole family, like me, Rich, Layla, their kids as well. And it was one of those where like, you never think about throwing yourself off the ship, but you're like, that thought maybe have crossed my mind a time or two. So much so that I felt compelled to mention it to my friend that was traveling with us and my husband and say, hey, I'm in a dark place right now. I know I'm in the Caribbean and I'm on this beautiful ship and we're having a great time, but I can't get my thoughts to shut the fuck up. So when you feel like you're at a place where you have to have those conversations with your loved ones, hopefully there are some people that don't, is, okay, I need some help here. Things are getting really dark. Things are getting really murky and I don't see myself outside of it. So that whole like derealization and depersonalization is like, you don't really know who you are. You're kind of lost in the darkness, and being anxious and in pain for so long really aided in me just kind of being like, you know what? I don't want this life anymore. And outside on the surface, I'm not saying like picture perfect, but I got a lot of things I don't need to complain about. Great jobs, great husband, amazing kid, beautiful home, XYZ, yada, yada. So many people have it worse. I want to acknowledge that. But I also want to say, because I have had to teach myself this through therapy and other ways, is just because other people have it worse, it does not negate my experience. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that and everyone hears that. If you don't hear anything else in this podcast, is that yes, there are people that have it worse than you in a lot of different ways, but it does not negate how you feel or what you're experiencing. So back to COVID, things were really dark. I was very depressed. I barely would go to work each day. We were all locked from home or locked down, had to work from home. So thankfully, but it was awful. I wouldn't leave my bed. I did barely engage with my family. I would cry all the time. I was impossible to be around. I didn't eat. I wasn't taking care of myself. Holidays, I didn't exist. There was one Easter, I look back and I'm just like, oh my God. And Layla was younger, however age she was then, young teenager. And again, I'm not getting out of my bed. And my mom brought Easter dinner over and gave it to Rich, and they colored eggs, and I laid in my bed and I didn't join my family. And that's really hard for me. And I look back and think of what I miss, but then I also look back and think, okay, I was suffering, I was struggling, and I had completely lost myself. Like, I didn't know who Adrian was, and I didn't want to exist in the way I knew myself. The sick all the time, the anxious all the time, the mind that won't quit, the intrusive thoughts all the fucking time. all the time. Like, it could be the most beautiful day and I'm thinking about the worst, most awful shit. You get tired of that and you start to think like, yeah, I can't do this for another 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You get to that spot where you're like, this isn't going to work. So, I didn't really want to be around anyone. I didn't engage with friends. I didn't go out, didn't hang out with people, barely saw my own family living in my house. There were nights where like I would just pace around the bedroom for hours when I'm supposed to be sleeping because the nights were the worst. The nights were the absolute worst. And Rich is so amazing and so great for literally being so stable and there for me and just giving me my space but never being far. There were weeks on end where I didn't want anyone around me, so much so that like I wanted to just be in bed by myself, but he didn't want to leave me. So my husband would actually sleep just outside our bedroom on the floor with our door open so that I could have my space and deal with what I needed to deal with. But he was right there keeping me safe and keeping me protected. We had conversations, and for a while the guns were not in the house. They're always in a safe and they're always secure and things of that nature, but I had to have real honest conversations that my thought processes were very dark at times, and I was very self-aware of it. And I think that's very important, is when you do have those thoughts, you have to be aware and you have to talk to someone, because that will save your life. I've lost so many people to suicide, and I don't think anyone ever wants to kill themselves. I think they just don't want to live in the way they know it at that moment. And that's a really scary place to be. So when the depression got ungodly bad, I really had to, I had to fix things. It's that I don't want this life anymore as I know it. So when I was able to start just kind of calming down more, I really got serious about my mental health. And it's a very lonely journey. It's a very hard journey when no one else can fix you. You got to do the work, and no one else can tell you when. It has to come from within. And it's every day. It's a lot of reframing how you think, how you talk, who you interact with, what you consume, what you read, what you watch. It's every aspect of your life. And it's not an overnight fix. And it's a constant thing that you have to focus on. And some days are really great still, and some days are really fucking awful still. But I know how to manage things quite a bit better now. Some of the most important things that I've done for myself, number one is therapy. And I am a huge advocate for therapy and mental health professionals, because they're not going to fix you. They're not going to cure you. They're not going to have all the answers. There may be some really shitty ones out there. I will say that it took me years in therapy, trial and error, finding the right person that I was comfortable with to start the healing journey. Going to several therapists for several months and then realizing they're not the right fit is exhausting. And then starting the whole process over of finding someone new, getting into their practice, being on a wait list, having several sessions to find out they're not the right person. I'll tell you, it takes some mental fortitude to not give up on that process. But I knew it was something that I needed. And when I found the right therapist, it really changed my life, because what I learned in therapy is ways to manage my anxiety and ways to get through it, because it's going to be there. I cannot control it, but it will not control me. And I know how to work through it now better than I ever have before. There were times where I couldn't leave my house, couldn't go to the store, couldn't do a lot of things because anxiety. And unless you like have anxiety and full on understand it, I get it. It can kind of seem like what the fuck is wrong with this bitch? Like, that shit will rule your life. It will take over your brain and what you think about, to the point where you cannot move. It's kind of insane. So therapy, number one, absolute must. And it's not about just having those conversations with your therapist. That's 1 hour, however long of a frequency. There was a time I was seeing my therapist every week, and then we went to every month, and then it's sporadic, and then I'll go several months, or there were times where I got to go back, or I can wait longer. So it's not a journey like this. It's one of these. It's a back and forth. That doesn't mean that it's wrong or not working. That's just how it is. But the work you have to put in on yourself outside of therapy is what really matters. So you get really lonely because you realize that you have to protect your peace. You have to not engage with either a lifestyle or people that don't fit into your goals. I had to stop watching a lot of shit on TV that I just can't consume anymore. When I watch shows that are either upsetting or graphic or violent, I cling to those things. And I don't mean that in like, oh, I love it. I mean, I can't get it out of my head. I can't get the scenes out of my head. It's very uncomfortable. I'll just replay it over and over. So a lot of, an example like Game of Thrones. No, couldn't watch it again if I tried. I would get sick to my stomach because I've done so much work and filtering out the crap that upsets me subconsciously. So social media, same thing. Unfollowing accounts that don't serve me well, retraining my brain on what I consume, what I read, what I listen to, who I hang out with, the interactions that I have, the stress I put on myself through day to day. It's a lot of work. And for a long time, I didn't have any passions or hobbies either. So I just kind of felt like I was floundering in life and not really having any sort of direction or what I wanted to do outside of, being a mom and going to work. So finding passions and finding things that you like to do are very important. But something that has been very powerful, two most powerful things for me in my mental health journey outside of therapy is meditation. And I talk about meditation a lot, especially in Sound Bath, because I know what it can do for you. And being able to quiet your mind and find stillness and not run rampant with stress, anxiety, to-do lists, intrusive thoughts. It's constant. That inner monologue is constantly going. And when I learned how to meditate properly and actually put work into it, it really has helped change my ways and how I can kind of slow down the spiraling when that does happen. Now, no matter what that may be. I've logged thousands and thousands of guided meditation hours and unguided, which means, I'm using an app or something that's a guided meditation where someone's speaking, they're guiding me through it. Self-meditation where I'm controlling the thoughts and controlling the monologue and the direction as well. But it's really helped me reframe just how my brain works. So therapy, meditation, and the third one is cannabis. So I am a huge advocate for medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, whatever you want to call it. I think it's absolutely insane that there is still so much stigma around cannabis and weed and pot and whatever you want to call it. I was never one to experiment growing up. Like, I was a really good kid. I didn't break the rules. I didn't smoke weed, didn't drink any of that. I actually didn't even care to learn about cannabis until much later in life, in my 30s. I think I've actually been consuming for almost a decade now. But I did a lot of research because I was sick of feeling like shit all the time. I don't like taking medication because I'm constantly putting medication in my body for my rheumatoid that is doing God knows what to it. I like natural homeopathic remedies that I can use that can give me some relief. So I started researching cannabis years before I started using it. And I'm talking like buying books, going to the library, doing research products, learning about it at things like the Cleveland School of Cannabis, just like actually understanding the drug and how it works and how it can works. Because in my head, I'm like, if something's been around that long and it's a plant, like there's got to be some secrets here. So, you can do really basic research and understand how powerful and impactful cannabis can be. So if you don't know, there's a lot of science behind it. And our bodies actually have something called an endocannabinoid system. And the best way I ever had it described to me was it's like a lot of like, I'm just going to do this. It's a lot of like wiggling fingers or lock and key. I've heard people call it lock and key. So we have these receptors all over our body, like almost like our nervous system all over. And cannabis that has cannabinoids are attracted to those receptors. So when we use cannabis, however we do it, we smoke a joint, we use an oil, we vape on a cartridge, we take a gummy, what the fuck ever way you want to do it. Hell, they have THC suppositories, for Christ's sake. I don't care how you consume it. Do whatever feels good. I like to smoke a joint. It's my preferred method. It's relaxing for me. I can control the high and kind of feel how it progresses, but it's just a nice relaxing session for me. So our body has this endocannabinoid system. And when we consume THC and CBD, it's like a lock and key. It finds those systems, those endocannabinoid system, and it clings to it. And it can fix or alleviate pain. So pain management is like the absolute biggest reason I use cannabis. Pain management. I can get up on a Saturday, take a gummy, smoke my joint, do whatever I need to do, and I can get through the next 3 or 4 hours of my day without any pain. So that may look like yard work. That may look like general house duties. That may look like running errands. That may look like whatever it looks like. I can get through my day thanks to weed. Second big portion of it is the sleep. So I can consume before bed, whatever way I choose to consume, and I can actually get a restful night's sleep. This is 2-factor. So it really turns the pain off in my body and allows my body to relax for a few hours. Weed is not curing my system. It's not taking away my disease. It's stopping the pain for a certain amount of time so that I can do what I need to do, whether it be rest, eat, whatever that may be. So at night, I can I can sleep, which is a big thing. But what's also true for me when it comes to consumption is I do not dream when I've used THC right before bed. And that's actually a really good thing for me because I have recurring nightmares and I have really bad nightmares that I've had for a very long time. I'm talking decades. So when I use cannabis before bed, I just simply do not dream, which I love. And it's very real because there are times either I'm on a tolerance break or I don't use before bed and those nightmares come back full force like clockwork. So that's a big thing for me. And then another thing is the way it can manage my anxiety and depression. So cannabis is very important to me because I feel like it turns down all the noise. Like if I had a dial, just like a big stereo dial that I could just do this up and down, my brain's always at full max. Always, 24/7, full max. It's doing its thing. It's popping off. Good, bad, ugly. It's going. It's going. When I smoke or I use cannabis, the volume gets turned way down. Way down. So that the thoughts, they're there and they're just floating along. So I don't feel as frantic and as crazy. And I feel more like myself. So those are the biggest things that cannabis does for me is the pain management, the anxiety and depression, and the sleep. So I want to tell people as much as I possibly can that if you deal with any kind of anything, literally anything, I challenge you to learn about cannabis and understand how the drug can actually impact your life. And to not give up after the first, try at it. Maybe you need to consume it a different way than someone else. Maybe you need a different strain than someone else. People will always say, oh, I don't like it. It makes me anxious. It makes me paranoid. That's fair. It can do that. And it's not for everyone. But there's also so many different types and strains and blends that there's something for everyone. So I encourage you to be a little more open-minded when it comes to cannabis and how it can really impact your life. Full transparency, not only does it help me so much, but I like to be high. It's nice. Like, you feel good. Maybe I laugh a little bit louder or I talk a little bit more, but I'm really myself when I am consuming, because all that other stuff that kind of filters who I am, the pain, the fatigue, the anxiety, that is not me. I don't know who that bitch is. That ain't me. So when I can slow those things down and I can turn those off for a little bit, that's when I really shine. So that's why I consume, because I know how much of an impact it's had on my life and what it's done for me. So I say all that to say that those three things are very important in my life: therapy, meditation, and cannabis. When I have people talk to me about mental health and what they do and what I've done, those are the three big things I'm going to talk about: is therapy, cannabis, and meditation. It has completely changed my life and gotten me out of some really dark places that they weren't going to end well. And I was smart enough and coherent enough in my, self-awareness to realize I had to make major changes. So I had to leave a toxic job. I had to cut out a lot of people in my life. I had to change what I consumed: music, movies, shows, what I read, who I hang out with, what I eat, where I go, all of that. Another big thing is I had to forgive myself for a lot of shit. You learn a lot about who you are and where you fuck up in life when things are really dark. And when you can start self-reflecting and, shadow work and call it whatever you want, when you're stripping down who you are and starting new in a different direction mentally, you really get to know who you are. I know all my toxic traits. I know all the bullshit I pull, and I can reframe myself to be a different type of person. I also really believe in the power of self-talk, and it can be silly where you're standing in front of the mirror and today's going to be a good day, or you're great, you're wonderful, everybody likes you, whatever the fuck you want to do, or silently into yourself. There were days and times, and there still are now, like if my brain starts going, I'm like silently to myself, no, something else. We're going to think of something else. We're going to figure out something else to focus on, because we've been down that road before and it's a mess. So self-talk is real, and what you say to yourself and about yourself when you're alone is very telling. So I wouldn't let anyone else talk to me the way I talk to myself. So why am I letting myself do that? Which is fucking stupid when you think about our brains. Like, your only job is to keep us alive and keep us happy, and you can't even fucking do that sometimes. So the brain needs help sometimes. It's okay to use medication. I'm on a low dose of medication. I didn't want to be on it for a very long time. And that's okay. It's okay to ask for help. So no matter what you're going through in life, no matter how good, how bad you have it, there's always a way out of it. So I always want to share with people that mental health and your physical health is utmost important out of anything else. I couldn't be a mom. I couldn't be a wife. I couldn't even be myself. I didn't know who she was. She was gone. I can remember my mom coming over one day when things were really bad and we're sitting on my bed and I'm laying my head on her lap and she's, stroking my hair and I'm just like sobbing because she can't see the way I see myself. And as a mother, you wish nothing but the best for your children. And I remember her saying, I wish you could see in you what I see in you, and even just a piece of it. And that's what you have to start doing, is you have to start loving yourself, and you have to start treating yourself with respect, and you have to set boundaries, as uncomfortable as they can be. But you have to work on yourself. And that may be just, you know what, today I'm not going to listen to songs that piss me off. Or today I'm not going to watch the news. Or maybe I'm going to read something that isn't about a serial killer. Or maybe I'm going to stop watching, God, I don't even know, dumb shit on social media. Unfollow the pages that make you mad. Block the people that piss you off. Don't consume it. Baby steps. Little things each day toward that bigger goal. Or maybe go to therapy. I think we could all use a little bit of therapy in our life. But everyone's journey is different. And my journey is ever changing. And I still struggle. Some days are really good. And I'll go months with no hiccups. And some days my anxiety will rear its ugly head. And it will feel like it's going to control my life. And it doesn't. I am in control because of what I have gone through and the steps I have taken for myself to work through that. So, as we move forward, I wanted to share all this information because, again, it's deeply personal to me. This journey that I've been on, and I'm sure I've left out so much, and I'm sure I've rambled because sometimes I felt like I was all over the place, and my voice has been shaky, and I've gotten emotional. But I wanted to get this out there because this is going to frame so much of the focus of my life, is taking care of my mental health and my physical health to be the best person I can and living the life I want to live and not letting my anxiety or depression rule my life anymore and the ways I go about that. And every day it's something new. So if you've gotten this far, I appreciate your listen. I really do. I got so nervous to do this podcast and I'm still a little like, ugh. And I'm sure I'm going to cringe, 1,000 times when I watch it back, but who fucking cares? I don't. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time. So I'm going to go back to what I said before, is posted is better than perfect. When I'm sitting here staring at my phone recording this, I'm like, sometimes you don't know what to say next. You have a general guideline and you just hope it comes out okay. But if you've taken nothing else away, please know that it's never too late and it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to be scared and it's okay to feel lost. But there's always someone that's going to be in your corner, cheering you on and helping you out. And the best thing you can do is make that person yourself. So find ways to love yourself, self-talk, get some help, find a friend, go to therapy. Please learn how to meditate. Get an app. There's a bunch of free ones. Come to a sound bath and maybe smoke a joint or two. That's all I have for today. This was emotionally draining for me, so I'm going to need to decompress after this. I really hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble. I've wanted to tell this story for a long time, and I have kind of felt stuck creatively until I word vomited this all out. So now that I've got this one out of the way, I feel much better and excited for the next ones to come. Again, I've got Rich coming on one of these days when we have some time. Again, life is so busy. We're going to talk about vacations. But then also in a couple weeks, my sister Amanda is going to be on here, and I'm very, very excited for that podcast. Lots of great stories. Really looking forward to that. And of course, if you want to come on and literally talk about whatever you want to talk about, we can just bullshit. We can have fun. We can have topics. Go to my website, theloudsoundbath.com. There's a link for my podcast episodes, and you can submit the form there. And then also, if you want to come to a sound bath, I would love to see you at an event. Check out my events page. You'll see when I have some coming up. And I also do private events. And those are actually taking up a lot of my time, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.